So I was thinking about how, when we first met our husbands, what was it that just brought life and smile to you? What is it that made you guys say, let's do it. Let's devote our lives to each other? And do you still have it? Would your husband say you have it? Are you willing to ask him? Are you willing to ask him if he misses anything about your relationship before you had kids? And maybe this stirs something in you right now. Maybe you're feeling a little bit flustered. Maybe you're getting a little angry at me. And you're like, well, why would I do that? I know what he's going to say. He's going to say I'm, so involved with the kids and blah, blah, blah. Maybe he is. Maybe you are. Maybe you have put parenting above everything, and that always comes first. And I get that there are seasons and moments when that has to happen, yes. Immediate things need immediate attention. But you were you were in a relationship first before you had kids. It was you two. You two are, the way I see it, it's you and God, you and me, it's me and God. Then my marriage, then my children, right? It's God and I. It's me. It's my husband and I. It's my children. But often, as moms, because this job of parenting is we're just built for it. It just, that becomes our focus, our constant attention is just put on those children. And then we're so busy at the end of the day, we're so exhausted throughout the day, and by the end of the night, we just don't want one more person needing anything from us. Yep. That's a reality. And so, the idea of asking your husband is, what do you miss about our relationship before we had kids? The idea is that you get an answer because if you want to know, and if you don't want to know, maybe you want to think about that. Maybe you want to think about why it is that you don't want to know how to fix your relationship, how to make it better, how to meet both needs. It's definitely not about being a doormat. It's not about you needing one more thing to do or accomplish. It's about honoring a relationship that is foundational in your family life. And being willing to ask those questions affects, I believe, your legacy. Because if you don't want to know and you don't want to fix it, then you'll know. You'll know because you'll not want to ask. You won't dare ask. But what if your husband's, you guys are going about life and you're like ships passing in the night, and he's feeling like he would love to have this fun, spontaneous, you know, wife back, and you're thinking, I'd love to not have people be pulling on me at every moment and wanting something from me. You want a piece of me, just all the time. And you'd like him to honor you, and you'd like him to do something romantic or make you feel pretty, or, whatever it is. And so maybe if you're just two ships passing in the night and you're both feeling like there's this deficit in your marriage, but you don't dare utter it, maybe because it just feels it feels like it's too vulnerable, that it's too, it could open up things that you're not sure you want to deal with. And, there's a lot. But the flip side of it is that it could just allow you both to walk, to see each other. You picked each other, so there has to be things that you love about each other. There had to have been times that you really enjoyed being together. And if this is not your story, you don't have to, obviously listen. It's not everyone's story that they're two people going in different directions. But if it's you, if you feel that, if you going in two different directions, asking the question and opening that door says, I value who we are together and this life that we're building, and I don't want to miss it. I don't want to spend my days so focused on the children that in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, we look across the table and we have no idea who we are. And meanwhile, you've had decades of distance, decades of bitterness that builds up, decades of needs not met. Because it does affect your children. Your children do see it. I mean, if you think about your own parents and think about their marriage, as you get older, I'm sure that you see parts in their marriage that are dysfunctional or healthy, or things that you never want to do, or things that you do want to do. We see it. We're a part of it in a family. We see how our parents interact with each other. I don't think we can get away from it, or how they don't interact with each other. And so the idea of being willing to say, to put yourself out there and say, I'm not sure I'm going to like what I'm going to hear, but I want to know what you miss about our life before we had kids. And that is a loaded question. I get it. But wouldn't you rather ask it than not? I mean, I think pursuing a good relationship, a good marriage, somewhere where you have fun and you enjoy being together is valuable. I would say equally as valuable as pouring into your children. Now, I'm going to say this, that it may be that you're really in a marriage that makes you angry, that you're not happy, that you never feel valued or honored, or your needs are not met consistently, and you've grown angry, and so it's easier to focus on the children. I'm saying a lot of hard stuff here, but I just think we can't be blind to things. We have to ask the questions, because they do, I believe, will be the things that set us free. And so if your marriage is one where you're just angry and you cannot imagine you cannot imagine asking your husband this because you think you're pretty sure his response will crush you, then maybe now is not the time. That maybe you can't hear one more negative thing. I understand that. And what I would suggest is that is an inside job. And what I mean by that is that should be a red flag for you to say, I need to figure out who God says I am. Because that's the only opinion that should matter to me. Yes, we are not to be doormats. Yes, we are to have honoring relationships. And yes, those are all true. But if we have our identity locked in Christ, if we understand who we are because of what he says we are, then when your husband says something mean, you can go, that's not okay. I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to turn around and say something mean. That's not okay. You can't talk to me that way. And eventually he'll believe it. You're going to be able to stand up for yourself. And if he's calling you to what you were, you can be like, that was my story, but that's no longer my story anymore. So you can't go back there. In fact, I don't think it's fair for you to throw that in my face. That was mean. So again, I'm saying if the weight of you asking your husband is too much, I just encourage you to go on this journey of discovering who Jesus says you are. Because then often when someone hurts us and we have our own shame, it heaps more shame on us. And we can just get overloaded and overwhelmed, feel like we can't move on, like we're never going to figure it out. But if we understand who we are in Jesus, what he says about us, then we're able to hear things because we no longer have that condemnation. We no longer have the self-shame or loathing or the guilt on us or all the things. We have, and it'll never be perfect till we get to heaven, but we will have a clearer, a more beautiful view of who we are because of what he says we are. And then when someone says something mean, you can be like, I'm going to sift that under the truth of Jesus and what he says about me. And if that's true, I'm going to work on it in the safety of Jesus instead of in the brokenness of someone who's broken, who's just trying to hurt me, right? If that's you, go do that. And I have tons of content about that. I'm creating tons of content about your value and what Jesus says you are and how that is to change the trajectory of your whole life, your parenting, your marriage, everything about your life. But if that's not your story, exactly, and you are willing to just say, hey, I would love to grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or whatever it is you want and get takeout and just sit on the couch and say, is there anything you've missed from our marriage that we had at the beginning and it's not around? And say, I want you to have time to think about it. And I also wonder if you would be willing for me to say the same thing. And I think you have to have ground rules. You have to have, we're not going to get angry. It might hurt. It might hurt. It probably will. I can just hear it, it's like, I wish you were fun and used to laugh and, we used to think I was so cool and all this stuff. And, your instant thought is, well, you used to be. And, I've got people pulling on me all day long and I've got needs that need to be met and blah, 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 all these excuses. And they're true. They're probably true. The point here is for two people who were in love, who committed their whole entire life, covenanted before God and a host of people, and said, we're going to commit to this thing. Say that I just want to value our marriage. I don't want to forget our marriage. I don't want to forget our relationship. I want to pursue it. And also, I think it's fair to be honest with your husband. Just be like, I know, if he says, I miss that fun person, and you're just like, I know, I miss the fun person. I miss the person that doesn't have a million responsibilities and emotional responsibilities, which are exhausting. And kids that are fighting, and I'm on nerves, and just taking them to the grocery store is a lot of work. And it doesn't have to be a complaint fest. It's just it's helping your husband understand where you're coming from too. And I think that at any point, if you say, okay, I think we need to pause this because it doesn't feel like it's getting productive or it's productive anymore. Let's pause it and let's just give each other space to think about what was said. Maybe next week we say, hey, are we ready to talk about that? And if we are, we can. If we're not, we don't have to. The point, I think, is to say to your husband, I value what we were. And there's parts that I miss. Like, even say it, if there are parts that you miss about your relationship, if there are parts of your relationship you miss, just say, I miss some parts of our relationship too. And so I want to build our relationship in these years of raising children instead of pretend it's not there. Are you willing? Do you want to know? Do you want to know what we all want to be desired? We want our husbands to desire us. And I don't think it takes that much. Like, even if you can't get a sitter and you just say once a week, we're gonna put movies on for our kids or give them screen time for an hour, before they go to bed, and we're just gonna sit with a glass of wine or a tea or pick up takeout, or make some food, whatever it is, and we're just gonna not meet needs. And you tell your kids, guys, Dad and I mean, unless somebody's bleeding, Dad and I are on a little date upstairs or in the other room, and you just open your heart to hearing what he is going through. Maybe he's got pressures. Maybe he's got a world of pressures on him and he doesn't even know how to share it. And I think that when we actually get outside of our needs, we get outside of what do I need, if you can get outside of that for a minute and you can try to understand him, I think that there will be a switch in some things, or can be the potentials there to have this switch of, I'm just angry at him because my needs are never met and I just feel like everybody wants a piece of me and blah, blah, blah. That maybe there's a switch and you see your husband as somebody who is secretly carrying such burdens. And you're so busy with the kids and don't seem to really care. I mean, maybe this is what he's feeling, that you don't really seem to care what's going on in his world. I'm just saying we have to keep the line of communication open, because I'm pretty sure that not a single one of you wants to get 20 years down the road and have no idea who you are. And your hearts are so far apart. And there's so much bitterness and anger and frustration and all the feels happening between you, and no one utters it. And then you're faced across the table with each other, and you're just like, now we have to face all of the crap. Or the flip side is that you can start the lines of communication. You can start positioning you as a woman, as a wise woman who builds her house. You can position your heart to say, I want to know my husband. It's going to be costly for me. I'm going to have to set down some things. It's probably going to be the kids. I'm going to have to set some things down. I'm going to have to let them play. I'm going to have to play outside so we can have time. I'm going to have to, I don't know, ask the Lord. He will give you time. because marriages are important to him. We only make 2 covenants, a covenant with God and a covenant when we accept Christ, and a covenant with our husbands. It's only 2 covenants that we make in our lifetime. And so it's important to him. And so if you want to know, if you are willing to ask the questions, you are being a wise woman who builds her house. This is your family structure. This is the foundation of who your family is. And if your marriage is crumbling, and if you're not willing to ask the question, that's a red flag. And we should always be willing to ask the question. And again, we may need to get who we are right. We may need to figure that out first. Otherwise, just heaping more shame and stuff on you is going to maybe be too overwhelming. But eventually, that's what we want to get to. We want to get to a point where our life, we are willing to ask the questions and say, I picked you, you picked me. We did that for a reason. I don't want to forget that. I don't want to ignore that elephant in the room, because it's only going to get bigger and bigger and a bigger problem if we don't actually deal with it. It could get sticky and ugly and at times, and you might have to walk away and pause and give each other space. Who cares? You have a whole lifetime. You have a whole lifetime to figure it out, right? You don't have to figure it all out today. It's going to take time. And maybe it's just like tiny little things. There's things that my husband loves, and when he would come in the door at the end of the day, I was homeschooling, and I would always have a little cleanup with the kids. I would just say, we're just going to clean up I'd set a timer, and we're just going to clean all this stuff up, because I knew that when he walked in the door, he wanted to have peace. It didn't always happen. Nope. But I tried to make it happen. And I would say, Dad has had a really busy day, and this is one little way that I can serve him, and we can serve him together. By when he comes in after a long day, he comes in and he feels rested. That this place is a sanctuary for him, a safe place. I mean, that language for your children is beautiful. I remember somebody telling me to do this, and my children knew that, okay, this is a safe place. And maybe when they have homes someday, they have wives and families, that they will be able to utter, this is a safe place, and I really I value these things in a home. When I come home, this is what I want. Another thing, my husband, I remember when he would come home from work and he would be like 5 minutes late, and I'd freak out. I'd be like, I've been with the kids. Oh my gosh, I'm about ready to die. And he would be like, the guy's had a long day, and he's just like, I don't know. I don't even know what to do. And we finally had to sit down and be like, wait, what is it that you need when you walk in the door? And he said, I need 30 minutes to just disconnect from work and get into family life. And so I gave that to him. And he said, he didn't invite this. And so I just said, I need you to do this. Because it's just not there. Probably, I mean, maybe your husband's different. Maybe your husband is like totally in tune with these kind of things. And he's like, what do you need? But probably they're not, right? They're not going to do that. And so I would say, this is what I need. I need you to do this. And if he would forget, and I would say, remember I said this is what I value. I really need you to do this. And so then he would do that. Like for me, it was, you make sure that the boys are doing their jobs. I don't want to do that. I'm telling them to do things all day long, and I don't want to do that. And so I would tell him, and he didn't get it right. I mean, he's not thinking about it. And so I would just have to just remind him. I'd be like, hey, that chores list, can you just make sure they get their chores done today? And so it's just about working it out together. That nobody's going to do it perfect. You're not going to do it perfect. Your husband's not going to do it perfect. And so the more grace we can give each other, the better off we're all going to be. The better off your children are going to be. Your home is going to be more peaceful. This is what I'm asking. I'm challenging you to ask the hard question. to just see if he's even willing to say it. And again, it's not about hurting each other. It's definitely not. If you are reading that, you've missed the point of what I'm saying. The point is to reconnect. Reconnect with each other. To value your covenant that you made with him. And say, we were a couple first. We need to value that. We need to value that we were that first before we had children. That our children should not be number one in our lives. First of all, they can be idols. Second of all, it's not good for them. A healthy environment is where they know mom and dad like each other. Where they know that while they're not perfect, they do work on it. They do try to value each other. They try to have time together, So this is my charge to you, my encouragement. Seek him out. Pray about it. Get your heart right with Jesus, that you know who you are in Jesus first, if that's what you need to do first. So you can get some strength behind you so that it doesn't maybe feel crushing, because maybe it does feel scary. I get that. But get started. It's beautiful. It's springtime. It's a perfect time to just, have the kids play outside and do something and just start having fun together. Maybe laugh a little bit. Maybe pat them on the butt, or, just do some playful things, whatever it is that is you. And just start growing together and not being scared about the cost of working towards that. Because I think that you're both wanting the same thing. I'm pretty sure that I know my husband wants a fun wife. And I like being fun. I love laughing. I love being playful. I love patting his butt. I love grossing my kids out by patting his butt or kissing him. But that took time. I didn't always have that. It wasn't until my heart got right and I understood who I was in Christ that I could really do that. And then I could celebrate who I am, who God made me to be. And that's a fun person. That's a person who loves to have fun. So, whatever it is that you love to do, pursue that with your husband. Pursue what made you fall in love with each other in the first place. Pursue reconnecting that. There's going to be a ton of fruit to that, I promise. Ask the Lord about it. Ask him for wisdom on things. I know it'll make a difference. I love you all. Have a great day.